Hi there. Today's question is, when is the right time to buy an electric vehicle? Should you wait a year or two or 5 or 10, or should you buy one now? Let's talk about it. My name is Mike and I'm from Greenway Electric. Well, the first thing that you should look at is your current car. If your current car is functioning well, maybe there's not a great compelling reason for you to need to replace it. Or if you have two cars in your family, maybe you are looking to replace one. But the first topic that really you need to look at would be the total cost of ownership of the vehicle you have or vehicles, and then the total cost of ownership of an electric vehicle. And so the total cost of ownership starts with the purchase price, of course. And if you compare the availability of electric vehicles now compared to 10 years ago, there's a significant increase in the amount of availability and price ranges available in electric vehicles. 10 years ago, there were very few models and they were quite expensive. Now, there's a lot of different vehicles available and in all different price ranges. You can buy used or you can buy new, you can lease, you can buy outright. And there's also a lot of different options in terms of the style of the vehicle. You can buy a sedan, you can buy a SUV, you can buy a truck. 10 years ago, those simply were not available. And so the first question is, what is the total cost of ownership of the vehicle? And you'll have to look at a few different things. Of course, you'll know the cost of running your current vehicle, the cost of the gas, the cost of the repairs and maintenance. You may need to add the cost of that up. But one of the main costs that you'll avoid with the electric vehicles is a lot of maintenance costs. The maintenance is not zero, but it does decrease significantly because there's no regular oil changes required. There's no spark plugs, no timing belt, no transmission flushes, no radiator flushes, no catalytic converter, and all those things. But you still have tires and brakes and windshield washers, fluid, and windshield wipers, that sort of thing. And so that's one of the first things to look at. Then also, what are the running costs? What is your cost per mile or per kilometer to run the vehicle? Take a look at what does it cost you per liter or per gallon for running your vehicle every day, or the distance you're traveling every day or every week. Take that, you'll figure it out for your current vehicle, and then also look at the costs of refueling an electric vehicle. And I have a separate video on how to calculate that. But generally, it's about 3 miles per kilowatt hour or 5 kilometers per kilowatt hour. In kilowatt hours, that measure of electricity that is charged to you in your household. And you can take a look at your monthly electricity bill to find out what that is, your monthly, your kilowatt hour cost. And then you can decide how much it will cost you per mile or per kilometer based on that. And there's a separate video for that. In addition to that, there's also a lot of rebates and incentives available. For Canadians, there's a $5,000 federal rebate. For Americans, there's a $7,500 federal income tax rebate available. Those are both federal rebates. They're available across the full country. Then, in addition to that, there's provincial and state rebates available in some areas as well. So you'll want to do research and figure out what is available in your province or state and decide if those are applicable to you. You'll also want to take a close look at whether there's going to be a change in administration in your local government. At the state and provincial level, those rebates tend to come and go depending on who is voted in and who's voted out. So you want to just consider that as well. Look at, is there going to be a vote coming in soon or a new party coming in power soon, and decide whether or not that's going to be positive or negative for rebates. I'll let you decide that yourself, but that often is what changes when new political figures get voted in provincially or statewide. All right, the next thing that you need to ask yourself is, do I have the availability to charge my car at home where I park it most of the time? And if the answer is yes, then that's a compelling reason to allow you to purchase an electric vehicle. If you're living in a condo or apartment where you don't have access to electricity to recharge your vehicle, it's going to be more inconvenient to charge up your vehicle. Unless you're able to charge at work where you are, hopefully, assuming you're there 40 hours a week, you may be able to charge up at work. You'll have to check with your workplace, of course, to decide if that's available to you. But the most convenient place of all to recharge your vehicle is at home. And so you can also look at charging stations nearby to you, but it was inconvenient to have to go to a charging station to recharge your vehicle. It's much more convenient to just simply park your car in your normal spot where you park it every day and plug it in before you go into the house. So if you have charging available at home, that is a definite plus on considering whether or not an electric vehicle is right for you right now. Another factor that is assisting with EV adoption is the number of public charging stations that are being set up throughout the North America and around the world. 10 years ago, there were very few charging stations available, and it was simply almost impossible to find one. There was a few of them available, but not very many. Nowadays, there's quite a few more of them available, and there's different websites like plugshare.com that will list where they are available. So you can take a look at where they are available closer to you, but also more likely where they are in relation to longer distances that you'll go to. Because honestly, you'll never use the charging stations that are within 10 miles or 15 miles of your house or 20 kilometers of your house, because you'll generally be charging at home. So you want to check to see where the charging stations are, perhaps on a route that you typically go or on a destination that you head out to that's further distance out, and see if those are available. The next thing that you want to consider to help you decide whether or not you should buy an EV now is looking at the range of the vehicle that you're considering and look at the normal driving patterns that you have. And so you'll have to decide if the range is available on the vehicle that is going to be suitable for the amount of driving you're doing. If you live in a very extremely rural or remote area and you're doing long, hundreds of miles or kilometers of driving every day, and you're in a very remote area, maybe it's not for you. But if you live in a large city, there's likely going to be a lot of availability of charging stations, and also most likely if you're living in a city, you're probably not driving any extremely long distances every day. The next thing I can talk about is the state of EV technology. If we go back 10 years, there was a lot of questions about, how reliable are electric vehicles? How long do the batteries last? You have to change them every 2 or 3 years, or the battery is going to last the life of the vehicle. Now that we're 10 years, 15 years on, we know that the technology is quite reliable, and I have a separate video on this as well. But with the technology and the batteries, essentially the batteries don't need to be replaced after you buy the vehicle. They're intended to last the life of the car, and any new vehicle purchase you have will have usually an 8-year or 10-year warranty, 100,000 miles, 160,000 kilometers. That's what a lot of the electric vehicle companies will have available for you. But even if you buy a used electric vehicle, there's a lot of vehicles out there that are 5, 7, 10 years old that have the original batteries and they're still going strong and not having any problems. They also may have still some left, remaining factory warranty. But if you're buying the less expensive ones, they may have their warranty expired. But there's not a large number of batteries needing to be replaced in older vehicles. It's a matter of looking at the condition of the vehicle overall. Has it been taken care of and treated well? And based on that, you'll be able to tell if it's a good vehicle for you. Go back and touch on the total cost of ownership item again. If you have a fairly long commute and you're doing a lot of driving, that may be adding to your costs of ownership of the gas vehicle, and it may be more compelling then to move to an electric vehicle because your costs are typically at least half to 2/3 cheaper driving an electric vehicle in terms of just simply fueling the vehicle every day, whether it's gasoline compared to electricity. And as often you could get some charging at work as well that may help offset some of the costs. Again, this is part of the total cost of ownership calculation. And so if you're considering the overall cost, considering the purchase price, that's something to consider as well. The other thing is with used EVs, the prices have been coming down. About 2 years ago, during the pandemic, there was a lot of concern about availability of components and parts, and the electronics were not available as much. That caused prices to be going up. But more recently, that has subsided. The supply chain issues have been resolved, and the prices have been coming down to more reasonable levels. And in addition to that, there's a lot more models to choose from as well. So now it could be a very compelling time to take a look at whether or not an electric vehicle is right for you. The question you may ask yourself sometimes is, do I need to get a new phone or should I keep my phone? And the similar question, I guess, arises with cars and electric vehicles. Is now the right time to invest in an electric vehicle, or should I keep my gas car? And that's something you'll have to look at. If you just purchased a gas car recently, the gas, any car typically depreciates the most in the first year of ownership, so it may be depreciating quite rapidly, and if you turn around and sell it after you have just purchased it a couple of months ago, it may not be the best choice. But if you've got a car that's several years old now, you're looking to replace it, this may be an excellent time to choose an electric vehicle, whether it's a new one or a used one. So these are some of my thoughts about whether or not it's a good time to buy an electric vehicle. I think it is a good time to buy an electric vehicle, but what do you think? Leave me some comments below and we can have a little conversation. Hopefully you found this video interesting or informative, and if you did, please give me a thumbs up and consider subscribing for future videos. Thanks very much and have a good day.